Hello, everyone. Sue.oneschuk here, continuing the workbook lessons of A Course in Miracles. And today we are on lesson 259. And today's lesson is, let me remember that there is no sin. It says sin is the only thought that makes the goal of God seem unattainable. What else could blind us to the obvious and make the strange and the distorted seem more clear? What else but sin engenders our attacks? What else but sin could be the source of guilt, demanding punishment and suffering? And what but sin could be the source of fear, obscuring God's creation, which is you and I, giving love the attributes of fear and attack? And the prayer is, Father, would I not be insane today? I would not be afraid of love, nor seek for refuge in its opposite. For love can have no opposite. You are the source of everything there is. Everything there is that is good. And everything that is remains with you and you with it. So again, the lesson is, let me remember there is no sin. And there's no separation from God. We only believe that there is. So here for me today is for me to let me remember that I am not an ego. I am not separate from God. I am not as I believe I am as an ego identity. Any belief in that is wrong. And I'm not a body. Because we were created in the image and likeness of God. We are love. We are sinless. We are innocent. And we are holy. That's what God created us as. And, so are our brothers and sisters. Again, we only believe that we are this ego identity that is sinful, guilty, deserving of punishment. It's all in our mind. That's what holds us back from the love that is available. Always, eternally. We are spirit. That is what we are awakening to. And believing in sin is believing that I'm sinful. And so are my brothers and sisters. All of us deserving of punishment and suffering. It says, what else but sin could be the source of guilt, demanding punishment and suffering? And what but sin could be the source of fear, obscuring God's creation, blocking us, blinding us, and giving, again, the attributes of fear, giving love the attributes of fear and attack. So today I'm going to read from the text, and I'm going to read a few sections of it and suggest you complete reading it if you feel moved to. But it's in chapter 19. Chapter 19 is the attainment of peace, and it's in section 2. And what it the title of this section is Sin versus Error. And what it says is, it is essential that error not be confused, be not confused with sin. And it is this distinction that makes salvation possible. For error can be corrected and the wrong made right. But sin, were it possible, would be irreversible. The belief in sin is necessarily based on the firm conviction that minds, not bodies, can attack. And thus the mind is guilty, we feel guilty, and will forever so remain, unless a mind, not part of it, gave its absolution. That's the mind of God, which is the mind within us. That's the truth. The mind of God is our truth. And it says sin calls for punishment as error for correction. And the belief that punishment is correction is clearly insane. We feel we have to punish ourselves if we've made an error, or we have to punish others who have made an error. Think about it in this illusory world where we believe that. It says sin is not an error. For sin entails an arrogance, which the idea of error lacks. To sin would be to violate reality and to succeed. Sin is the proclamation that attack is real and that guilt is justified. We're justified in making ourselves or choosing to be guilty or seeing others as guilty. Just look at that. It assumes the Son of God is guilty and has thus succeeded in losing his innocence and making himself what God created not. Again, we are wholly innocent and sinless as God created us. That's the truth. Said, thus is creation seen as not eternal. Again, you said, I'm going to read this again. It assumes the Son of God is guilty and has succeeded in losing his innocence and making himself what God created not. Thus is the creation seen not as eternal. We don't see ourselves as eternal beings, as spirit. And the will of God open to opposition and to defeat the will of God. Sin is the grand illusion underlying all the ego's grandiosity. For by it God himself is changed and rendered incomplete. That's the insanity. The Son of God can be mistaken. He can deceive himself. You can deceive yourself. And you or he can even turn the power of his mind against himself. Within our mind, we turn against ourselves. We betray ourselves. We self-sabotage. We believe we're not worthy. And it says, again, the Son of God can be mistaken. He can deceive himself. He can even turn the power of his mind against himself, but he cannot sin. There is nothing he can do that would really change in his reality in any way, nor make him really guilty. We believe we're separate from God, and that's where the guilt comes from. And we're not separate from God. That is what sin would do. For such is its purpose. Yet for all the wild insanity inherent in the whole idea of sin, it is impossible. Sin is impossible. For the wages of sin is death. And how can the immortal die? A major tenet of the ego's insane religion is that sin is not error, but truth. And it is innocence that would deceive. Purity is seen as arrogance by the ego, and the acceptance of self as sinful is perceived as holiness. And it is this doctrine that replaces the reality of the Son of God as his Father created him and willed that he be forever. Is this humility? Or is it rather an attempt to wrest creation away from truth and keep it separate? All right, you may want to continue reading that particular section again, which is is chapter 19, section 2 on sin versus error. I hope that's helped to bring some further clarification for you and further understanding. And as you go on today, to remember again that the lesson, which is, let me remember, there is no sin. All right, thank you for being here as always. And please go below and like, comment, share, and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And I look forward to being with you in the next video for lesson 260, which is, let me remember, God created me. All right, look forward to being with you then. Until then, from my heart to yours, I extend much love to you. Bye for now.